Hey, Orange, my company. Hey, they pay the bills, and I do say this with all sincerity. I love and adore the people I work with. So, not a lot of people can say that. I really do. It's been almost 15 years, and yeah. But anyway, enough about that. They gave me this nice little thing from. I was on the safety committee. I was past tense. My life got a little busy, so I'm no longer on the safety committee at my job. I try to be safe, and I remember all my stuff from my whole life about training and stuff like that. So I do wholeheartedly support the safety team because they know what they're doing, and they're worth supporting. Anyway, I want to come home safely at the end of the day, and I want everybody else to come home safely at the end of the day too, because we have family. But I'm not going to go off on that 1 minute into this. So I was listening to some fantastic music. Again, I don't know. I just don't leave it on repeat and bookmark it. Google Tron Legacy Ultimate Soundtrack. Tron Legacy Ultimate Soundtrack Suite. I love Tron Legacy as a movie. I did watch the original I think about a year ago, because I was like watching Legacy a lot. Again, over and over. And so I watched the original, and I liked the original. I remember seeing it in the theaters. It still holds its place. Again, it's not a movie I watch all the time. But I've seen it possibly a dozen times in my life. I saw it once or twice in the theater, and I've seen it many times since then. It's okay. The second one's awesome. I really, really, really do enjoy the second one. I think it's just more of, I'm going to say this. I mentioned this before, and again, I'm starting off on many, many tangents. It's hard to be our age without the comparison between generations when it comes to movie making. I talked about earlier in a different video about the mindless teenage sex comedy, which was all the rage back in the 80s. Ski School and Porky's and whatever else is out there, But if you can get full frontal in a movie, and kids are like, you're gonna go flock to it. They don't hold up at all. So, like, they were just make stupid, mindless movies and get some nudity in it, and you're gonna pack the theaters for a couple weeks and make your money back. But beyond that, and I will say this as a comparative. Forget the other what I just talked about, but the tangential one, the main topic, which is not the main topic of this video, but I gotta talk about right now, movies. If you watch right now, you go rent or buy or download or stream or whatever, the original X-Men movie, that was whatever it was, I can't remember the date for it. X-Men, that's before X2, X-Men United. X-Men, it was a great movie. Trust me, I like that movie. But you watch it now, after X-Men 2, 3, and Spider-Man's and all the other ones that came after that. And then, of course, the 21 epic movie franchise of the first set of Avengers and blah, blah, blah. And you go back and watch the original X-Men. It's so slow. Now, here's me. I like that. I also don't mind fast-paced movies, but it's so slow to get to the end. And X-Men, as it was made, would not be made today that way. It'll have a lot more action in it. It'll have a lot more busyness in it. It'll have a lot more eye candy in it. It's not a dark. Well, it's kind of a dark movie. But you watch the original X-Men, and you watch X2, X-Men United, and you watch X3 and the X-Men Apocalypse or whatever it was called. Watched them all. I like the X-Men franchise, but because it started way back then in the 90s. I can't remember, it could have been the names. It's slow because movies back then, you watch Out of Africa, you watch High Road to China, you watch Dances with Wolves, you watch any of those epic, Titanic, you watch, there's action, there's story, but it's a long movie, and it doesn't feel long, I don't think. But there's time enough to breathe. There's time enough to soak in the scene, to appreciate the cinematographers back. I mentioned this before. The cinematographers back in the day earned their keep. You couldn't just CGI Africa. You couldn't CGI the North America circa Last Mohicans. You had to go. Somebody had to drive out there into wherever and suss out the forest and suss out the streams and suss out the covered wagons and the bridges and all that stuff. Somebody had to suss that out instead of just CGIing it. I adore Last of the Mohicans. It's a fantastic movie. And then you get the other epics like Waterworld. I'm one of the few people who really like Waterworld. I liked it from the beginning. I wasn't like, I went into the theater, watched it, I said, this is a good movie. Because it was a good movie, as for what it was. Like, again, I always talk about this, but it's a slow movie. All things considered, that movie could not be made that way today and put in the theaters. People think this is long and boring. I like those kind of movies. That gives us, you have a chance to breathe and soak in the environment, as it were. I really liked Waterworld. I thought it was a fantastic movie. It's not epic and it shouldn't win the Oscars, but for the story was told, and I got the story and I liked it. And Costner did a great job in it. And so, but you look at the evolution, and if you go right back to On Golden Pond, I think 1981, Henry Fonda, and the 70s movies, even if you watch Dirty Harry, okay, so here's going right back to 1972, I think it was, Dirty Harry. You watch Dirty Harry, and yes, the car scenes, and go ahead, what do you feel like? You watch those scenes, and it's a 2-hour movie, and yet there's time to breathe in it. There's pauses in the movie amongst the action scenes, and even the action scenes are not as packed as they are now, with visually, like, you're moving everywhere and the 3D and whatever else is. And again, today, I'm not knocking these movies today, they have their place, but I, as the old person, hey, you kids get off my grass, appreciate the pauses. I do think that the Avengers movies themselves had inserted some pause sporadically in the movies where it slows right down and you get character development. Tony and Iron Man and Tony and Steve talking and stuff like that, and going back to meet Dad, that's nice, whatever. There was some down times, but it didn't, there's so much packed into 3 hours in Endgame that it could have been, back in the 70s, would have been 2 different movies, 2 separate movies at 3 hours each, because there would have been a lot more pauses in it. Anyway, I could talk about movies. I adore movies, but I was listening to Tron Legacy Ultimate Sound Suite on the YouTubes, and I just put that on in the background when I'm shorting or building or whatever else, because it's fun and it keeps me moving. But one of the things I liked about Tron Legacy is that it did have downtime. Not a lot of downtime, but it had downtime. It didn't feel rushed, and I like that. And that's comparatively similar to the original, where it didn't feel like it was rushing to get somewhere. It was just enjoyable story as it unfolded. I didn't mention that. I started mentioning this, but I'll finish the thought. Shocking. I do try, legitimately try, when I'm watching a TV show or a movie. And I got in this discussion with somebody else the other day, with toxic gatekeepers again, which I will not rant on. You've heard my rants about toxic gatekeepers before. But I really do try, overall, and it's worked thus far in my life, to accept what the director is trying to direct. I try to accept that, and usually it's foremost in my mind. Okay, what's the director? I sit down and I want to enjoy the story. I'm not going to watch a show that I'm not going to enjoy. I'm not going to. I refuse to watch a show I am not going to enjoy, or a movie. That's why I will not watch horror movies, because I will not enjoy any horror movie at all. And we can nitpick on where the demarcation between a horror movie and suspense and thriller movie is, and I think there's distinct differences between the two. I love Army of Darkness. It's not a horror movie. Although Evil Dead 1 and 2, it's questionable. But I want to sit there and I want to just soak in the movie as it's presenting itself to me, instead of saying, oh, I wish this. I wish they did this. I wish they did that. I wish they did the other thing. Oh, look at that. Well, the director screwed up there. Now, in the end, I remember, I can't remember any specific scenes off the top of my head, but I remember, because I saw a lot of movies back in the day in the theater, I remember very sporadically, I'd be taken out of the movie by something that was glaringly bad, that didn't seem to be appropriate. I cannot think of a scene in my head. I think it was Witches of Eastwick, something that happened, and I can't remember, that all of a sudden, because again, when I'm younger, 14 to 25, when we're sitting in the theater all the time, I'm watching a movie and the rest of the theater just disappears. Like, it just disappears. And I'm in it. I'm in the movie, I'm watching it, and everything else disappears. And all of a sudden something will happen. All of a sudden I notice the theater again, because something glaringly, whatever, takes me out of the movie, as they say. And so I don't think it's for, like, I never put it in a way that I'm more forgiving than other people, or I'm less discerning other people, because I think I'm very much discerning. I think I appreciate, like I mentioned on my other things in my life, I appreciate other people's enthusiasm for what they're enthusiastic about. I really do. I am not solely Aryan Amadeus, I mentioned him before, who gets jealous of somebody else's production or somebody else's gifts. I do not get jealous of other people's gifts, and I know that there are people better, smarter, cuter than me on so many things, including Lego. And so I will sit there and I'll go to a show and I'll just bask in the wonderfulness that people are creating, no matter what they're creating. Overall, I can't think of a single mock that I've come across that I go, why would you even put any effort into that? I've never, even if, for me, I would never literally ever, you couldn't pay me to build something like that. I'm not remotely interested in that for me, but somebody else put the effort into it. I'm going to say, that's fantastic if I like it, and I go, oh, that's appealing. Or even if it's not appealing, like, oh, this is cute and sunshine and rainbows. So it could be ugly and dark and, not horror, but they have this brooding build in mind when they're building it. And I go, ooh, I get that. That's fantastic. Nicely done. Right? It might not be my cup of tea personally. I would never build that way, but somebody else built that way. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, oh, that took effort. That conveys to me what they're trying to convey to me. And I'm going, nicely done. Even if I personally would not build that way. I personally would not make the Witches of Eastwick. I would never have made the Witches of Eastwick. But again, I'm not a world famous movie producer and getting, hey, Jack Nicholson, want to come and start a movie with me? Start a movie. And yet I sat there, and it was years ago. I think I've only seen it twice in my life. But I remember liking overall the entire movie. But I think I cannot remember for the life of me, but I remember something in my head saying that one scene took me right out of the movie. And I'm going, I just can't wait for this scene to be over. I will say the one movie that to this day, and I've only seen it once, and I don't plan on seeing it once, is the Death Becomes Her. Because you have Goldie Hawn, one of my favorite actresses of all time. Literally one of my favorite actresses of all time. And you have, I think, Meryl Streep's in it. Right? Meryl Streep's in it. I think. I didn't look it up. And you got Bruce Willis, who at that time was past all the diehards. He's the last Boy Scouts, whatever else he was doing, like all the movies, and all of a sudden, hey, we'll put you in this kind of comedy, not thriller, but this odd movie, called Death Becomes Her, and I saw it in the theater. Hey, Goldie Hawn's in it. All the other people are in it. I'm going to go watch it. And I'm going, I just wasted 2 hours of my life. It's off the top of my head. It's one movie. Blue Velvet would be another one. But Blue Velvet had some redeeming qualities to it. Again, I mentioned Citizen Kane a long time ago. It's a movie that I've seen so many times, and I hate watching it. But I keep on watching it. Because there's nothing, literally nothing, except for that one scene that's redeemable about that movie for me. There's no edification, there's no joy, there's no happiness, there's no sunshine, there's no rainbows, there's no. It's just a director's movie. How to set up shots, how to shoot different angles, how to tell a story using the camera. And the way to set that up, that's part of the story. And you watch Citizen Kane, you will see all that stuff in that movie, that it conveys what it wants to convey by the camera shots. It conveys words in your head by the camera shots. It gets its point across by how they set up the camera, how they set up the scene, how they set up the repetitions, whatever else, all the cliches and stuff. That's Citizen Kane. But when you step back and you look at the entire movie, it's just Drek. It is just, oh my, why would you put any effort? Why would you put any effort into this movie at all? Because you come out of the movie, I just wasted hours of my life. Except for that one scene. But I got the same thing from Death Becomes Her. I love the people in it. I thought I would appreciate the story, because it's kind of like science fiction-ish, kind of whatever it is. You know, it's kind of magic and whatever else is. But I'm sitting there the entire time I was watching that movie going, I want to leave the theater. It wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen, but it was like, I didn't find it, it made me queasy sometimes. I think that's what it's supposed to be doing. And again, if that's what the movie maker's trying to get across, then you got it across. But I just, there was no joy in Death Becomes Her for me. Because even if it's trying to deal with a dark subject, I don't take joy in the subject. I take joy in the way that people convey the subject, so people will learn from it. That also brings me lots of joy for me. That, like, I am happy, but joy of conveying a message that people should want to hear. I think that's fantastic. I think that's very, very admirable when you can make a movie that conveys a message that people need to hear, whether it is holding up a mirror to the universe, to our lifestyles, to whatever we're doing. Again, much like Star Trek's always done, hold up a mirror to what we are doing today by taking the stories of today and putting them 300 years in the future, so you're not easily offended. But Star Trek was always woke. So if you get your point across, let that be your last battlefield. If you get your point across by telling the story, and people say, "Oh, that's like Vietnam." Of course, it was Vietnam. that's the war, and they conveyed it, and they made it. I won't say juniorized, but they made it simpler to understand the complex matters of the Vietnam War. Let that be your last battlefield. Sorry, I got that mixed up. A Private Little War. Let that be your last battlefield was the other one where they tackled racism, and that was blatantly in your face, but it's fine, I'll take it, because it was a point. They're making the point, and they made it very clearly. Let that be your last battlefield. Private Little War, not as clear, but pretty clear. Star Trek was fantastic that way. Overall series about pointing out where we as 20th and now 21st century people could look at the situations we find ourselves in a different and usually better way. So I get joy, not happiness, rainbow's joy, but I get joy out of TV shows and movies where they have a message to convey that pertains to our society. I think that's awesome. I've always thought that was awesome. And again, I also find happiness in movies that are complete fluff. That have nothing to do with anything. If you sit there and there's no morals, there's no the whole world learned something and we got better. Sometimes you just want to watch a movie to watch a movie. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, as they would say. I don't know. I do find that I contemplate this stuff because I think it's important to, not necessarily life-changing things, but it's important to reassess your positions on things. I think it's important to always try to ascertain or find new information that might put a different light on your core beliefs, and try to reinvestigate what you believe and why, to see if they still hold true, your beliefs and understandings of the world. I do find in today's society, because we move so fast now, everything moves so fast now, that it's very, very difficult to take the time to do an internal critique, an internal rebalancing, an internal investigation as to what you think is right and appropriate, because you're so busy trying to get to the next day without losing your head. So it's like, I get it, but I do reassess my beliefs. I do reassess my appreciations, and what is left wanting usually starts diminishing, and what is reinvigorating, that the stuff that I have appreciated literally my entire life has no detriment or bad values to it, or minimal bad values to it, because I don't think anything's perfect, and I continue on. I don't lose any sleep over it. I don't bite my nails and like pull out my hair, and although there ain't much there, at nighttime worrying and get all angsty about life values and stuff. I think my values are pretty okay. There's always room for improvement, but overall I've managed to make it this far. 58 now. 58, can't believe this. 58 now. I've made it this far with some principles that have lasted me my entire life, which is, don't be a dick. Thank you, Will Wheaton. Don't be malcontent. I do find my public rage, if there's such a term, my public lack of appreciation is a better way of putting it, is towards people who just are singularly selfish in their own wants and desires, and do not take into account the society. We were just driving today, and we were a BMW. Shouldn't be a shock. I know nice BMW drivers, but overall, a BMW cuts over right in front of me, right before a light, to make a right-hand turn. There's no cars behind me at all, but the light's turning yellow, turning red, and he cuts right in front of me as I'm slowing down to stop at the light, and he turns the corner. Well, it's red now, and the passenger threw one of those monster drinks out of his empty can out of his window. BMW, all glossy, all shiny, all with the fancy rims, all with the fancy trim, and rolled on the window, right on the curve of the road. And I'm going, really? Like, really? Like, you have the money. It's clear that you have money. You're just flaunting it now that you have money, and you just don't care. You're malcontent. You're 100% malcontent, and again, people are allowed to be malcontents. Our society has allowed people to be malcontent. It's built into the freedom of our societies to be malcontent. And I'm going, whatever, dude. You do you, I guess. Anyway, I was going to talk about something else, but I'm already 23 minutes into this, so I'm going to wrap this up. This was movie time and some small tangents. So many things I could talk about. But yeah, that's it for now. I'll talk to you on the flip side on the next video.